Hi, my name's Trystan Petrash, and before we get into it, I just want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to my newest monthly donor, Paul Moore. You, Paul, you're awesome. So the other day, I was trying to think of what to actually make for this episode, but unfortunately, my car still isn't fixed. And because I live in Winnipeg, we got hit with yet another blizzard. So I really didn't feel like going anywhere and buying ingredients. After tearing through my fridge, and my pantry, and my storage shelves. But then I remembered, I'm a chef. So I said, F it, I'll make something up. And it ended up being really, really good. I mean, you liked it, right?
Yeah, it was really good.
She liked it. So today, I'm gonna show you how to make Korean braised cod. Like I said, this isn't any specific recipe, just more something I threw together. It does kind of take a bit of inspiration from kimchi jjigae and this Italian tomato braised white bean dish I've been making a lot lately. We're gonna start by peeling and thinly slicing some onion. You can, of course, chop or dice it however you'd like. Thinly slicing is just the quickest way to cut an onion, especially if you're comfortable using a knife. And one way to accomplish that is by signing up for a monthly membership to my channel. There you'll get access to my new how-to series, starting with basic knife skills. We're gonna need some peeled and roughly cut potatoes. I chose potatoes because they're great in slow-cooked dishes, inexpensive, and I always have some on hand. They also break down slightly and release starch, which helps to thicken the final product. I also went with some green onions that I sliced into bigger pieces. Green onions are a great way to add color and freshness to a dish for practically nothing. They're also something I always have on hand. In last week's episode, we made
Ginitaang munggo
and used fresh spinach. When I bought them, they were 2 for $3, so I had another bunch sitting in my fridge. Cut off the woody stems, then chop into small pieces. Alternatively, you can use frozen spinach or any leafy green in its place. But if you are using fresh leafy greens, be sure to thoroughly wash them in cold water first. They are one of the biggest contaminators of E. coli, salmonella, and listeria. But a simple wash is enough to remove 99% of them. Another ingredient I used in last week's episode, but always have on hand, is canned whole tomatoes. Even cheap ones are packed right after picking and therefore retain most of their quality, flavor, and nutrients. They're also very inexpensive, and I can usually get 2 to 3 meals out of a single can. Because they're being braised and will have enough time to break down sufficiently, chopping them into small pieces is more than enough. Tomatoes are also naturally full of MSG, which is why they taste so good. The last thing I decided to throw in was another staple of my kitchen and one of my absolute favorite ingredients ever. I am, of course, talking about kimchi. If you ever just need an infusion of sweet, sour, spicy, savory, and umami in a dish, kimchi is the easiest answer. It's also full of probiotics, nutrient-dense, and low in calories, making it a healthy addition to any dish. I make my kimchi pre-cut, rather than whole leaves, so I'm just giving it a quick chop. That way it still offers some texture without having any large chunks. Now, fish isn't something I generally buy. I've honestly just never been a huge fan. But I do love cod, and in an attempt to eat healthier lately, I've been purchasing whole fresh cod loins. The downside, though, is after cutting the nice fillets, you're left with these paper-thin tail pieces. The first time I made this, I ended up cutting the cod into large chunks, but found they cooked too much and flaked apart. So this time, I'm slicing them into 4 equal pieces. I'm also gonna salt them, which does 2 things. 1, and most obvious, it seasons it. But 2, it draws moisture out and firms the fish up quite a bit, meaning it'll be significantly juicier and tenderer. After generously seasoning both sides with kosher salt, set aside in the fridge. Now, the easiest way to turn something into a filling meal is to add a starch. For me, that almost always means rice. More specifically, jasmine rice. Rice cookers are handy things to have, but they take up a lot of space, and you can't make small amounts. hence why I don't own one. But cooking perfect rice in a pot couldn't be easier. Most importantly, start by thoroughly rinsing the rice in cold water until it runs clear. Then add to a small pot along with 1.5 times the amount of water to rice, and season with kosher salt. Bring to a boil over high heat, cover and simmer on low for 15 minutes. The last thing we'll need to make is a sauce. So in a small bowl, combine soy sauce. I'm using Korean soy sauce, which is a bit lighter in flavor and less salty, but regular soy sauce will do. Mirin, sweet cooking wine. Fish sauce. Gochujang, Korean fermented hot pepper paste, along with some freshly grated ginger and garlic. The sauce itself is fairly close to what you'd see in kimchi jjigae and adds sweet, spicy, salty, savory, and umami to the dish, which is a pretty common theme in Korean food. A large frying pan or Dutch oven will do the trick, but a wide cast iron pan like this, otherwise known as a Braiser or rondo, works best. But you can, of course, use whatever you'd like. You do you. Heat over medium-high heat and add a few splashes of a neutral oil like canola. Once nice and hot, toss in the sliced onions and potatoes. Season with a pinch of kosher salt and cook until the onions become translucent, stirring frequently. The salt will draw moisture from the onions, stopping them from burning. Add the chopped tomatoes and kimchi and continue cooking for another minute or two or until the juices have thickened. Then add the sauce and stir until the vegetables are completely coated before pouring in some chicken stock. I use chicken stock mostly because I always have chicken stock on hand, but it's also a very versatile ingredient. It adds flavor and body to a dish without overpowering what you've already built. It also goes with just about everything, whereas beef, pork, or even vegetable stock doesn't necessarily pair well with every dish. Cover with a lid and simmer over medium heat until the potatoes are tender and cooked through, about 10 minutes. Then add the spinach and stir until it wilts and reduces in size, followed by the green onion. With the liquid reduced by about half, remove the cod fillets from the fridge and place on top, pressing down gently until they're almost fully submerged. Then it's just a matter of continuing to cook until the liquid is almost fully reduced and the cod is cooked through. You can tell it's done when it's firm but springy to the touch and opaque in the center. Then bust out your fanciest bowl, pile the rice in the center, spoon over the vegetables, and place a piece of cod on top. Then finish with a nice drizzle of sesame oil, some toasted sesame seeds, and as always, some thinly sliced green onion. And that's it. Korean braised cod. For something I just kind of threw together, using what I had left over from my last video, and my usual go-to staples I always have on hand, it turned out really good. The vegetables are tender and flavorful, and the cod is juicy and flaky. It's also just a pretty healthy dish overall. If you like my channel and are interested in supporting it while getting some cool perks, like access to my private Discord server, bonus content like my how-to series, and shoutouts in episodes, you can check out my Ko-fi page. I'll have a link for that as well as the equipment I used in this episode and the gear and services I used to make it in the description. And hey, if you've made it this far, consider liking, subscribing, and commenting. They're the easiest ways to help the channel grow. Thanks for watching, and stay awesome. It ended up being really, really good. I mean, you liked it, right?
Yeah, it was really good.
She liked it. Okay, one of those works. I'm almost done.
You're weird. I love you.
Whatever.
Do a snow angel. Stand right there and fall backwards into the snow.
It's really bright.
It is. Do you want to try a different angle in the yard?
No, let me see. That's probably